And welcome to another edition of the True Patriot Upfitters podcast. Folks, how's it going? It's Gene here. Tonight's broadcast brought to you by none other than Eagle Claw Trocar Laser Sharp. American made. You've heard me talk about it before. If it means something to you, like it does to me, that's your terminal tackle, Eagle Claw. And speaking of Eagle Claw, that's what this episode is all about. We've got the man himself here to help chat about some of the products and such. As you folks know, they have supported our work with the TPO, helping us give away some tackling gear at one of our events this year, and also help keep me on the road out there, keep me with the best possible gear I can have. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in old Freckles himself, Mr. Eric Allee. Eric, welcome to the show, brother.
Howdy, Gene. Thanks for having me. I'm stoked to talk. I'm just excited to talk to you.
Talk fishing.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right. You know, man, you and I have talked about this, at different meetings and when we're out fishing and such before. Eagle Claw you said this at the last meeting. It's a legacy company. I mean, you guys have been around for so long. I mean, when I was a kid, the things I remember, those red and white bobbers, it's the first things in my tackle box when I had my little fold out tackle box. And one of the coolest things I had was that plastic yellow deal with the spring loaded hooks for my snell hooks. And it was always Eagle Claw snell hooks. You know, that was to me, that was just the coolest thing ever. Cause I could just simply tie that bad boy, put it on my little swivel clip, and bam, dude, I'm fishing. You know what I mean? When I joined the team there, the fact that you made that point, that reference to me, that in my box of all my goodies and getting that first purchase done, and you made sure that there were 2 bobbers and a pack of snell hooks, and you looked right at me and you told me, this is so you don't forget where we came from.
That's right.
Bro, that went so far with me. I can't tell you just how important that is to me, that remembering our roots, remembering, what got us started, why we fell in love with fishing, and to see a company living it and breathing it, baby, every day. I love that stuff, man.
Yeah. So the snells, the same thing for me, right? The snells, it's a part of all of our family's histories, right? Like if your dad took you, if your grandpa took you, they fished Eagle Claw snells, and you did, and then you pass it on to your children and stuff like that. And then the bobbers is one of those things that I'm very passionate about growing the sport. And when I say growing the sport, I'm not trying to get tournament anglers up in arms against me, because I'm a tournament angler myself. But so often we hear that term, grow the sport, grow the sport, grow the sport. Well, what people are actually saying is they want to grow tournament angling. They're not saying they want to grow the sport of fishing, because if they wanted to grow the sport of fishing, they would devote at least a little bit of time to those bobbers, because that's what's going to grow the sport of fishing. Is, well, twofold. One, if watching a bobber going down doesn't still tickle your heart, oh buddy, you're dead. Okay, that's number one. But number two, in fishing is such an individual journey that I hope nobody takes offense to that, because it's for some people it's all competition, right? For some people like yourself, it's giving back. It's giving the therapeutic side of fishing to somebody else. But when it comes to growing the sport, I'm going to hold people accountable to that from here until my voice box is done, because it's like, if you want to grow tournament angling, talk about it, say it. Like that, we both want to grow kayak tournaments. Sure. Like it's something we're passionate about. But at the same time, when you're taking a veteran out and you put his kid on a fish with a worm and a bobber or something like that, that is actually growing the sport. And for Eagle Claw, that is one of our largest goals, is to continue to grow the sport and get people out fishing for more reasons than one. And I didn't mean to jump on a soapbox, dude, but like I'm here, so I might as well just finish it.
No, this is
Uh,
perfect, man. This is perfect.
so, and not to get all serious with you, but if it wasn't for fishing, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And what I mean by that is I grew up in a neighborhood where a lot of the people that grew up in the neighborhood I did ended up in the penitentiary. Um, I still struggle with anxiety. I have times where I get agoraphobic and all the rest of the stuff. The water is always there. So when you take a kid fishing or you take somebody fishing, you're not just giving them the opportunity to catch a single fish or have a good day of fishing. What you're doing is giving them all access pass to something that will always be there, and it's therapeutic. It's if I talk too far, I'll get allergies, and I don't want to do that. But I'll just say that uh, fishing matters, and I have a
Yeah.
good friend that's just started a company, and that's their slogan, and it truly does. So it's the bobber and the snells. I only give that to the people I really care about because I know they understand the sentiment.
Man, and that was for me when I had the opportunity to first see the power of what getting out and catching a fish could do for some folks, the benefit. It really not only did it open my mind to going, oh my gosh, man, I literally could share my passion knowing that it's providing, an avenue of healing. But I'll tell you
Mhm.
what it really did, man, is it made me turn the camera back on myself. As I'm
Yep.
driving home for 13 plus hours, I was like, dude, well, no wonder I got hooked on it because, like you, I got stories too, where
Mhm.
in different things that I've gone through. And I started looking back, going, where did I always end up? On the water. I would
Yeah.
find myself on the water, and that's where everything made sense. That's where things calmed down for me. The voices chilled out. I
Mhm.
could start to see things. I could see my next move, what I needed to do. It wasn't by mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, but for a lot of us that are dopes, that just don't pay attention to stuff like me, I never realized it, exactly
Yeah.
what it was doing physiologically, mentally. And then when I saw it firsthand, man, I'm like, you know what? It's right. It's part of, we're returning ourselves to nature. You learn how to respect nature a lot more. Um, and when you double this all into kayak as well,
Mhm.
man, it's such an intimate setting where, I mean, you're in their home. I mean, the only
Mhm.
thing we could do more it would be free diving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's the next stage from kayaking is free diving. But beyond that, yeah, man, it's that's a very good point. Because about growing the sport and what we actually mean by it. And leaving an impact somewhere in there. That's because my work with the All American, I mean, my job now, the way I take it is to help that series grow, and help that series
Yeah.
make itself, a recognized name. Um, but that's not growing fishing. You know what I mean? That's
Well,
that's that's tournament. That's
the,
tournament angling. Big difference there, and I get that.
there's an interesting kind of byproduct of this too, because all the anglers that we sponsor, they have one thing in common, and if they don't have it, they don't wear our brand. They don't. That it's just not going to happen. And that thing is, I know that if you're at a dock and you see a kid and you're whacking them on a Senko or something like that, you're going to give a kid a bait, right? You're going to talk if a kid asks you a question, you're going to talk to him. And as a byproduct of big tournaments like the All American, you're going to have guys in kayaks on docks. You're going to have guys in kayaks at tackle shops. They're going to interact. They're going to talk. There's something to that, right? It's kind of a byproduct of it, and it's it's interesting because when I say stuff like that, I think, okay, well, Freckles, what are you doing individually? You know what I mean? And it's one of those things. Like I do stuff. I'm very quiet about it, but I do stuff, and then I think fishing gets in the way of me growing the sport. So it's a little bit of humble pie to say something and then go, well, okay, I fish maybe a little more than I give back, but it's something to consider for all of us. Where it's like and it's not hard. Not everybody has to do what you're doing. They don't have to devote
No,
everything to it. But what they can do is take the neighbor kid fishing, right?
right?
Take your son or your daughter's friend fishing stuff. Like it really does, and some statistics. I think it's like the percentage of anglers that turn into lifelong anglers are exposed to fishing before the age of 12.
Right.
The vast
I
majority of them.
remember.
So
I remember seeing something like that. Yeah.
so it's one of those things with Eagle Claw, especially. It's the Snells are. I mean, Paul Mount. It's one of the most printed pictures in the history of the world. That's the gentleman that's on. And it's funny too, because when you look at, he's holding up the stringer of trout. It's actually not a stringer. It's $100 Granger fly rod at
Oh
the
my
time, which was a
gosh.
long, long time ago.
Right.
And it's just there's so much history there. And a shout out to a YouTube channel that's it's Retro Bass, and they actually just did a video on the that iconic packaging.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Look.
if you let me keep talking about this, I'm going to go on and on because it truly is the therapeutic side of fishing. That's why talking to you, it's like that the fishing industry sometimes when we have a tough year, the funding gets very, very difficult.
Very.
And when you
Yeah.
start talking about ROI and stuff like that, it's like it's not just money, right? It's not just dollars and cents. Sometimes it's knowing you're aligning with somebody that's making a difference, and making a difference with fishing is Eagle Claw.
I got to tell you, man, I wish more companies out there would pay very close attention to this, especially the smaller companies. Um, they in our fishing industry, in all honesty, I mean, there's so many good things that came out of, the last 15, 20 years for anglers in general. But also one of the things that killed was social media. It can be used for positive impact, but it also, as we know, it has negative impact as well on a lot of areas, and one of those is in representation. It took the bottom out from underneath the accomplished anglers that are out there, and it made it so that if you understood the game of social media, all of a sudden now you could gain these followers, you could show this type of stuff, and now all of a sudden there people are worried about this and that. It's such a crazy landscape that is turned into. But Eagle Claw understanding, I mean, I can sum this up for those of you out there that are that look at things like my brain level does. What we're talking about here is quality over quantity. We're talking about trusted representation and actually making a difference and doing something. And like you said, man, that can be as simple as take a kid fishing. One of the other things I found in my neighborhood out here, I had this old pitching and flipping game that had little magnet jigs on it you scored points with.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this, and one of my neighbors, his boy was out in the front yard when I come driving by, and he's sitting there trying to learn this bait caster, and you can tell he's having some issue. I literally stopped because I happen to know the guy. And I'm like, "Hey, John, how's it going, man?" And he come out and he goes, the boys, trying out this stuff, man. They saw your truck. They want to get fishing now. And I'm like, that's awesome stuff. And I start talking to the kid a little bit, so he's struggling a little bit with the bait caster there. So I show him real quick how to adjust it, how to set it up first.
That's cool.
I was like, now, loosen it a little bit at a time here. And then you can, he started getting his, he goes, oh man, he goes, that's so much easier. I'm like, well, it's still going to bird nest. Just get ready for that. Okay. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Hang on a second. I literally ran back up here and got that because I'm like, when's honestly the next time I'm going to use that game? It's
For
like,
sure.
honestly. So I took it, went down there, hooked him. I'm like, if something doesn't work, let me know. I don't want to be passing off trash to you. Dude came back later and told me, he goes, oh man, he goes, he's got it set up in the basement now. And that's all the kid's doing now is down there and he's working on his pitching and flipping deal. And I'm like, that is so awesome. Just little things like that, man. Talk to him and get him excited about wanting to get out. And it does start with kids, man. I really do. I think that's the big key is getting youth involved in that.
Well, talking about social media and stuff like that, right? It's people like the attention, right? That's why we do it. But with that attention there comes responsibility, and taking that role of a role model seriously, and looking at opportunities and taking advantage of them in a way to give back to the sport. That's growing the sport, right? That's like when I hear and I get numbers and stuff thrown at me all the time about this many miles with a wrap truck and all the rest of this stuff. Like, most of the time I don't care, to be honest with you. Now that story is the first time I heard something where I go, now the rat truck means something to me,
Right.
because it's the symbol of this is somebody that can do something that maybe you want to do and reach out to them. That has meaning. But this thing in fishing, like you're talking about, where it's like, well, this person has this many followers and this many
Yep.
followers and all the rest of this stuff. If you got 10,000 followers and you don't have a connection with one of them, you aren't worth squat, right?
Right.
But if you got 5 followers and those 5 people believe in you, you got something, and that taking the time to do something, and it's like that's what Eagle Claw's about. That's what I'm about. That's aligning with people that'll take the time to go, hey, this is cool. I know this kid's into it. I'm gonna inspire him. And the funny thing is when you're doing it, you don't think like, oh, well, I'm gonna inspire all the rest of stuff.
No.
You're just like, oh, dude, that's me. That's me when I was a kid. I'm gonna go help him.
100%.
I love that. I love that.
You know, and it was like I said at the start of the show, it was the roots of where we got the idea to actually do something with this was, you know, I was asked to go. I was working with some nonprofits. It was what it was. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. That took my boat, put a 21-foot nitro bass boat on a 200-acre pond and took guys out. It was the first time I ever used my remote for my trolling motor, because I sat in the middle and I had a guy in front and back and I tootled us around that, deal. And I had no idea what it was leading to, at the start. I just thought, hey, we're going fishing and they want somebody to help with fishing. Great. And then all of a sudden the story started going, and then the thanks, the hugs from these warriors. I mean, these guys were just, men among men, and the true heartfelt, response. I'm like, whoa, okay, this is something super cool. So
it's amazing what when fish get out of the way for just a little bit, it's amazing what the water can do. You know what I mean? Like it's
right.
It's pretty great.
So, man, this last year for you, you guys were busy. You were very, very busy. The two champs, the reigning, the 2022 champ, the 2021 champ. How'd the season look for you guys, man?
It was good. It was good. I'm not going to toot my own horn, so tooting's coming. But I did. I cashed the check at most events that I fished this year. And Leslie is always deadly. We know that. You know what I mean? Leslie's always deadly. Her approach is it's sanity and mine is insanity. So there's a yin and a yang there.
Awesome.
But actually, my preparation time this year wasn't great. That's something I hope to do better next year, just because we've been going so hard at work, and then we got 3 kids. We got one that doesn't live with us. We got 2 that live with us. It's constant
life,
and it's getting ready and looking up at 2 o'clock in the morning the night before a tournament, and then getting out there and trying to be your best. It was tough, but it's one of those things where talking about CKB, I'm glad this year that I'm going to be pushed to fish outside of my normal spots, because I want to fish the Nebraska tournaments, I should say. I want to fish the Kansas days, just because I've finesse fish a lot in tournaments in state, but it's actually not what I'm best at. So when we get to fish Nebraska and Kansas and stuff, I'll be able to fish the way that I like to fish, not the way that I feel like I have to fish.
Right. And speaking on the finesse side, I've just completed a couple of videos here where I'm trying to get some help with some of the video production stuff there, because 20 some odd years in the IT industry, yes, but it was in management. It was managing teams, and it was in, help desk support. It was in user support. It was not in graphic work. So I'm reaching out and I'm trying to get some help with some of my videos, this and that. But one of the things I talked about on that finesse side was, people that know me know straight up, I hate finesse fishing. It is not my favorite. I only do it when I feel I absolutely need to do it, because I'm not getting feedback any other way. Right.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I do when I approach a fishery is I want feedback. I want to feel what's going on. I want to hear what's going on. And how I do that is by catching fish. Okay. And I want to know what am I moving when they hit it? Am I slow? Where in the water column am I? That whole thing. Well, one of the things I talk about was, because I don't like finesse fishing, it is imperative to me that my gear be the best absolute gear that it can be. And so I go through real quick in this video talking about an FG knot. I know
Mhm.
guys have other type of knots because they're easier, they're faster. To me, the FG knot is just the end all beat all. And if you do it enough, yes, it takes some time. I would not try to do it in a kayak on the water. Just not going to do it. I'll probably do a double uni at that point and just
Yeah.
call it a day. But when I'm back prepping, FG knot, but then get right to where this story was going. The TK 150, man,
Mhm.
that drop shot hook that we have, it's a no brainer to me. The quality of this thing, when I'm tying this thing on, when it's on there, regardless of the size, that I'm using, there's no question to me that I've got the right hook. I just don't lose fish when I do my job right. You know what I mean? It's boom, I hook them, they're pinned, and they come to the boat. End of story. That's so huge for me because I'm not a good finesse guy. So I need my gear to really pick up the slack
No.
for me in that case.
Well, the TK 150 is the best drop shot hook ever made. And there's some other really good drop shot hooks, right? I'm not one of those people that's going to bash everything under the sun other than our stuff. There is some really good drop shot hooks. It just so happens that the TK 150 is the best that's ever been made. Monday we had a visitor at Eagle Claw, Matt Becker. He won. He shored up $200,000 with a TK 150 size 4. It's just it's an engineering marvel. And if anybody wants to see one of the juicy bits of a TK 150, do yourself a favor, get all the other hooks that you got that you drop shot with. Um, Sharpness is unquestioned. We know how sharp Trokar is.
Right.
Look at the barbs of everybody else's drop shot hook and look at the barbs of the TK 150. Now think about how much time you put into tournament fishing, how much of your heart and soul you put into being your best on game day. If it's something you enjoy, or maybe it's something you have to do at the time, and then realize that little chunk of metal is what's holding your dreams together.
Right.
If you want to go with the smaller barb, oh buddy, that's fine by you. I will take your money. But if you want to go with something that's going to take all your hard work and put it where it needs to be, and that's in the net, TK 150 is the hook.
And even outside of like what we talked about earlier, outside of tournament angling, if you want to go fishing, pardon me, I got hiccups. Isn't this awesome? Right on a podcast. Um, if you're going out fishing, you may find one of those days, especially in our state, where you get about 6-7 bites all day.
Mhm.
That's all you're going to get. In the tournament game, we have a term called fishing clean. That means I get a bite, I land them, no mistakes, everything's good. Everything's good. Pardon me. My God, this is fantastic. Hiccups right in the middle of a podcast.
You're doing that, and I'm playing with my mustache, dude.
Nice. But even if you're just going out for a day of fishing, it's imperative, like I said, in a state where you don't get a ton of bites, you want to land them, man. And so that when you consider that the cost for these is is good, it's not like you're going to spend $1 million on drop shot hooks. You know what I mean?
No,
It's like get the
yeah.
right hook, get the right gear, and don't have any horrid stories about the ones that coming unpinned at the boat or coming unpinned at shore.
Well, you said it best. We're fishing clean, right? Like you and I both, we can finish a tournament and be in 10th place. But if you capitalize on every opportunity that you were given, you can drive home and not be contemplating never fishing a tournament again.
Right, selling your gear.
Yeah, but when you fish a tournament, and it's happened to everybody, where maybe your hook selection is poor, maybe your hook maintenance is poor, or something like that, and you lose fish at the net, or you lose fish that were pinned, it makes you question everything. And selecting the right gear is insurance against that. Now, there's still maintenance. There's still things that we have to do on our end, but it's putting the odds in your favor. And from our perspective at Eagle Claw and Trokar, that's what we want to do. Like our goal is for you to be your best.
Yeah, man, and that was the key. Was I just knowing that I don't even think twice now about, okay, I'm good here, I'm solid here, now I can, it's the troubleshooting, right? You need to get
Yep.
a base somewhere. So if I'm having issue, it's got to be someplace else. It's not going to be in here, and you can trust that. That whole piece there. I'll tell you another one that was a big game changer for me this season was that TK 105, the Pro V.
Mhm.
I literally and I don't know, maybe I'm going extreme, but I don't throw maybe soft plastics like Texas rig as much as a lot of guys. I'm a big jig guy. I
Mhm.
love my jigs, finesse jigs, my AT jigs. I throw a ton of those in place of, that. But
Mhm.
when I do go to Texas rigging, that 105 Pro V, man, I saw firsthand at Okoboji pinned like an 18 and an 18 and a half, and when I got them to the boat, I took pictures of the thing. Of course, it didn't come out as good as I thought, as what I could see. But you could see where that hook had driven far enough and in, so the V had that lip,
Yeah,
locked. And I'm like, yeah, you go ahead and fight all you want, Junior. I got 30-pound braid here. You're not going anywhere,
that's right.
and
That's right.
they're pinned. That's the thing.
Mhm.
It's like he's pinned. I don't. He can shake. He can fight. He's not getting away from me. At that point.
So the any of our Pro V hooks, right, are phenomenal, but the TK 105 is it's a standout. So I fished with one of my friends, Thomas Allen, within Fisherman. We fished in your old neck of the woods in Minnesota. We were a little north from where you live,
Yep.
but we were fishing in Otter Tail County. 3 days, we did not dump a single fish.
Wow.
And where the penetration was on some of those fish, and I didn't know that Minnesota bass were that healthy, so I wasn't prepared for it, to be honest with you. But the fattest, healthiest northern strain largemouth I've ever caught in my life, and it was just some of them were all the way through the snout. It was just the Pro V bend is it's just a great hook. I don't want to get too lost in the weeds
Sure, sure,
about
sure.
talking about all the details of it, but a guy like Zona, if you really notice anything where there is a Pro V option, Zona is kind of gravitating towards it, or has already gravitated towards it. So we have the TK 133, which is a Pro V flip and hook. TK 130 is legendary. This is just that with a V bend.
That was actually going to
We
be my next one that I
mhm.
would say that was the top three that I got used to this year, man. And that 133, holy Moses, I love that hook. That thing is so
it,
strong.
same thing. And once they're pinned, it immediately funnels them down to the lowest point of the V, and it's done. Don't fish them without pliers because you're not going to pop
Right.
the. It's just don't do it. TK 137, our finesse hook. That's another one. It's got the Pro V bend. It's just if you haven't tried our Pro V bend yet, you have to. I guarantee you, your bite to hookup ratio for any presentation you use them with is going to increase. And again, our goal is to help you be your best.
Right. And that's really, the piece, man, that I emphasized this year was just I need to be able to fish, need to make sure that my gear is there. I don't carry $500 rods. I don't do $300 rods. I just don't.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I prefer, that price point in that 150 range to 200 is probably some of my better ones. And that's
Mhm.
literally, because I'm not a finesse guy where, I need to feel. I run good tungsten and I can feel the ground. With I've got some 13 fishing, I got some arc rods, I got a whole mix mash that I need to get squared away eventually. But nevertheless, the point is that want to make sure that the terminal tackle that I'm using out there, like you said, it is the connection that in the line, right?
Uh-huh.
I mean, I run vicious, for that, and between that and my terminal tackle, there's just no question in my brain. I can fish confident wise. And
Yeah.
now I know the issue is me, not that.
Well, you said it perfectly. The connecting point between you and your dreams is a little piece of wire that if you want to risk it on that, and I have rods ranging from all over the place. I have reels ranging from all over the place. I will not skimp on hooks. I will not skimp on line. I won't. And when it comes to finesse fishing, you have to make sure your drag system is up to snuff, right?
Roger,
But
Roger. Yeah.
if I have to choose on one, which yeah, I'm older now, so it's like on some of the rods I splurge when maybe I shouldn't. Um, but a lot, I'm like you. That $100 to $200 price range is probably a little more comfortable for me.
Yep.
A lot of great rods in there, right? But if I had to, like I did when I was younger, I took a lot of people's money out here in Colorado using $60, $70 routes.
Amen.
But one thing I never skimped on was a hook and line.
I've had several people comment with certain setups that I have when I say throw a frog or I throw a swim bait out there, and the thing goes, a country mile. They're like, "Dude, what reel are you swinging there?" I'm like, "You don't want to know." He's like, "What
Yeah.
do you mean?" I'm like, "It's a $60 Abu Garcia reel that I've had for 3 years. I clean it every at the end, and it still keeps working, man." Yeah, I sure wish I could. To be honest with you, my end all beat all that I've used has been Daiwa, but
Yeah.
I'm too much of a little peon out there to ever grab their attention. I need to learn to meet somebody at Daiwa. That would be the ultimate, high end quality stuff. But for me, I find good stuff, man, and then you just take care of it, and it does well.
Yeah.
But the thing you can't maintenance your way out of is a bad hook that's going to bend, or it's just not going to penetrate. It's not going to set, so that stuff, you got to make sure you are buying the right stuff.
Well, and here's another thing to consider when it comes to hooks too. How many times throughout the course of a day do you check your hook point? You know what I mean? It's
Not
one of those.
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those things when I got maniacal about hooks about 3 years ago. Um, and before it was like, if I'm fishing a Ned rig or something like that, if I got a snag for you, I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm still fishing. When I started checking my hook points after about the third or fourth snag, I started realizing that I've been doing myself a disservice
Oh wow.
as an angler, as a tournament angler, to not now. Sometimes, if I'm like pre-fishing, I'll get a file and I'll sharpen them up real quick, right? But if I'm fishing in a tournament, the difference between winning and losing, top 10 and bottom 10%, could be one bite, especially late in the season at with CKB and CKFP. Uh, Dude, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? So any people that are watching this that if you fish against me, Gene, yourself included, you can't use anything I say against me. Okay. So if you didn't watch your hooks before and you were using subpar branded hooks, keep doing it. Right? Keep
Right.
doing it. But all you guys out of state, all that stuff, like hook maintenance, it's a thing. You know what I mean? Like you never know when you're going to have that moment
Yeah.
in a tournament. You never know. Like years ago, we had a virtual event. It was right in the middle of COVID. CKFC had a virtual event, and guys got to pick and choose where they got to fish. So it was like you could fish Boyd, Horsetooth, Trinidad, Aurora, and I think Bar Lake was the choices. I was like, dude, I'm not driving to Trinidad. I'm just not.
Yeah.
So
That's a haul.
there was I think three of us that fished Aurora. It was me, Kenny Hood, and Roger Coolidge, I think it was. Um, and it was one of those magical days, like one
Nice.
of those days when you're supposed to win. All you could do is screw it up.
Right.
And I was using the TK 137, which is our Pro V finesse hook. And I'm fishing for like an hour and nothing's happening. I'm not seeing anything. I'm feeling like I should have made the drive to Trinidad. And then I pull up shallow and I just see a bass cruise by. And I was like, all right. When you're not feeling it just yet, I pitched it in and I saw my line go like that. Reel down, put the wood to him. It was like a 19 and a quarter.
Wow.
That's how my day went. I think I got it to this day. I think it's still the biggest limit that's ever been caught during a tournament caller. I got 90 is what I got.
Wow. In Colorado. Yeah.
And this, how everybody says when you're gonna win, you'll know it. You're supposed to win. I went to go to the restroom, so I was trying to get to the bank, and there's a row of trees. That's how high the water was. I see 3 5-pounders move into the trees, so I quickly zip back up. To be honest with you, and then I pitched the soft plastic into them, and there was 3 5-pound fish that were fighting over it. And it was just one of those things where it was like, I can do no wrong, but if I would have had the wrong hook, one missed opportunity, I actually would have lost to Michael Archuleta at Trinidad, who also had a killer day at 86 inches. So it's just
Wow.
it's one of those things when we talk about fish hooks. Alex Rojas, he was talking about. You remember the day he had at Pueblo this year?
Oh yeah.
Crazy, crazy day. Using small swim baits, again, a Trocar, a TK 570, which is a jig hook. He pours his own jigs on. It's just give your guy. I'm trying to think of how to word this, but also knowing I don't want to help the people that fish against me too much. But you deserve to use great hooks and make those opportunities become a reality. I don't want fish stories. I want fish photos, and that's what hook selection and all that stuff does.
So this 137, this bad boy right here, it's a finesse 137. It's got that Pro V bend to it right there. What would you, I mean, what are we talking here? Is this, are you throwing this in wacky rig situations? You throwing this in Nico rig? What do you, what are you throwing that on?
So for me, both. We have another a drop shot hook, not a drop shot. We have a wacky rig hook, TK97. For me, I actually don't use it anymore because I think the 137 it gives me everything. So if you look at the shank length on the 137, it is long enough to where you can Nico rig with it, and it's a great Nico rig hook. And then you could look at the V bend and you could see why wacky rigging with it is perfect. Right. It's your Cinco or Cinco style bait is going to sit exactly where it should.
Exactly.
And then it's got the Pro V bend. So it's like it's a dual benefit of the Pro V bend with keeping your bait where it should be, but also once you get bit, it's a done deal. And it's the position I'm in with Eagle Claw, one of the things that I do is I work with all of our pros, right? I work with guys like you that are changing people's lives one fish at a time, and then I work with guys that they've been fishing for a living for 20 years. A commonality between all the Elite Series guys, the MLF guys, they all order the 137.
Right.
Every single one of them. And it's one of those things that if you haven't yet fished it, put it on the list, use it. You will not use another wacky rig hook or a Nico rig hook. And I'm going to bring up the barb again. Yep. Look at the barb. Like it's why. And if another company's watching this and they're going, well, how do you get away with using larger barbs? Because how sharp it is, right? Penetrates with ease, and then the barb helps keep them pinned. It's just it's another amazing hook. And I hope I'm not sounding like the sham wow guy.
No, not at all, man. That barb is legit.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the TK137 is a masterpiece. Yeah. I don't think that's something that we use a lot in the fishing world, but it really is. And when you see guys like Zona rely on a hook like that, when Zona, he talks to everybody. Zona is almost mythical, to be honest with you. And he loves the TK137.
Yeah. And that was just, my I do a lot of power fishing throughout the years. So when it does come time to get into the terminal side, one thing I am going to do that I need to speak with you about to get educated on is one of the biggest pieces is a lot of the treble hooks. With my crankbaits, with swim jigs, or not swim jigs, but swim baits, different things that I'm using there. I need to absolutely, because I'll tell you, my crankbait box is like something straight out of a flea market. I never really settled on one that really grabbed me more than another. And I just know that on those crankbaits, man, some days just for no good reason, this one is killing it. I've got wiggle warts, I've got rock crushers, I've got, a Rapala, I've got 6 Sense, you name it, man. I've got just a whole selection, but I have, and I took these and put them in a standard box. The trebles that come with these things, for whatever reason, they don't see it worthwhile to put actually quality trebles on this stuff. So I want to start getting into that, is swapping out my trebles, making sure putting some decent, Trocar trebles on my power fishing, setup there, just to reassure myself that I'm going to be all right. Because how do you not get pinned with 6 hooks?
Yeah,
dude, you gotta really suck to not get pinned.
Well, and the thing is unfortunately, if they're just swiping at it or they swipe at it weird, it's just a reality of using treble baits, right? It really, really is. But to your point, where they don't always put quality trebles on, that's a fact. It's an irrefutable fact, and it's one of those things where Uh, I really want to urge folks to look at all of our brands when it comes to treble hooks. Trocar, when you think of Trocar is competition level hooks. They're absolutely fantastic. They're the best of the best. Laser sharp is not a huge jump down. So the Trocar point, it's got the triple sided point, super super sharp. We know that Trocar is the best of the best. But let's say you're throwing square bills and you know you're donating a lot to Rip Rap.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Go with laser sharps. Put on laser sharps. And then there's the other question is, do I go round bend? Do I go EWG? And there's a couple different schools of thought with that are exactly opposite. There's folks that when they're slapping at something, they want an EWG for when they do get hooked, they stay pinned. And then there's folks that want a round bend when they're slapping at it because that straight up point is going to hook better. Me personally, the way that I do it, if they're slapping at something, like a jerkbait, for instance, I always go EWGs. And we have two versions. We have a TK 949, and then we also have, I believe it's a Walmart exclusive. It's got Fletcher Shyrock on it. It's a treble kale hook, which is the EWG style. Fantastic. Both of them are fantastic. When they're flat out eating it, that's where I prefer a round bend. And another aspect of changing treble hooks on hard baits that a lot of folks should consider is you dictate the size. It's no longer what the manufacturer decides is the size, which could very well be the one they got the best deal on, not necessarily the one that fits the bait best. But you can upsize with, say, a shorter shank, and as long as those hooks aren't holding hands, you're going to get a better hookup ratio.
You know, one of the tricks that I was shown a long time ago, this is about 10 years ago, and I actually do this, you can also alter the traveling and the distance and the sink ratio of certain baits by going a little bit bigger on the front, a little bit smaller on the back, a little bit bigger on the back, a little bit smaller on the front. You can actually alter that stuff up and really start to fine tune, a lot of the power fishing that you're working with.
Well, there's some folks I work with. They'll do an EWG in the front and a round bend in the back too, and they'll mess with it that way. So it's really it's taking control of all the variables. You know what I mean? And let's be honest, I work for Eagle Claw. I'm not going to say that I never open a bait and just throw it with stock hooks. I'm not going to say that because it's not real. You know what I mean?
Right.
I ride the stock hooks as long as I can, which sometimes is about a half a trip or something like that. And other times I'll Vision 110s, for instance. I'll run Vision 110 stock hooks as long as I can, just because they are so light, super super light wire. And whenever you remove those hooks and you add any other hook, it's going to alter the suspension of the bait a little bit.
Yep.
Which is something that we'll be working on that we can talk about in the
future. Nice. Good stuff, man. And that's the product is the easy stuff. The company of Eagle Claw, I've said this at any time that you guys are the sponsor of our shows, and that is the American made piece, man. It's a tough topic, I think, to be honest with you. When you start talking made in the USA, it's a hard topic to accomplish because let's be honest, if we make it in the USA, most of the time it's not the least expensive. And when you're in an economy like we're in right now, budgeting is a big deal. My response to that is, I understand that if you're talking about salsa, okay, I get that. But when it comes to fishing, when it comes to doing a certain, aspect that you're going out there for, like you said, there's areas you can skimp and cut and save some cost. These are areas you shouldn't. And the made in the USA aspect for me is very, very important. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that everything I have is made. No, it's not. But a good portion of it is. My kayaks are and that is part of my decision-making process when I go down the line, man. When I start looking at this stuff, I'm like, hey, I need to take a closer look at this. So that piece to me, it's the icing on the cake. But for my decision-making, it was like one of the first steps, you know what I mean? When I was going through it, but for those folks out there, you can feel good about, using the equipment that you're using, and again, we're not talking, you guys, where is economically priced as anybody else out there, man. The difference is you're just getting higher quality flat out.
Well, so a couple things to point out with American made, and I'm glad you brought it up because it is a touchy subject, right, for a
Yeah,
lot of folks.
yeah,
Um, uh, Recycled American wire. It's not just that we make the hooks in Denver, Colorado, like we always have. The wire is also recycled American wire. So you're not just supporting the people at Eagle Claw who make the hooks. It's also the company that we get the wire from. So that's another aspect of it. But
nice.
um, when it comes to Eagle Claw as a company, all right, first and foremost, I want you guys, everybody watching this, I want you guys to use our hooks because they're the best, right? The fact that they're made here it's a point of pride for us, clearly. Uh, but again, they're the best, right? So that's something that I really like. Put them up next to anybody with fantastic, fantastic hooks. And I'm going to do my best not to get emotional when I talk about this, but uh, the men and women at Eagle Claw, okay, you're talking about when we think about hooks, I think maybe you view the marketing guys or something like that, but the reality of it is we have men and women that are in the back of Eagle Claw making these hooks. But before they can make those hooks, we have engineers, we have a product team that's coming up with the concepts, doing some of the drawings, engineers, setting tolerances for machines and all that. Then it goes to the back, and we have men and women manning these machines that make the hooks. It's a process that starts with a piece of wire, cutting a piece of wire. It goes from there to sorting the hooks, QC department, which is quality control, packaging. Then it goes into shipping, this thing that is Eagle Claw that is represented by a little piece of bent wire takes a lot of people, and it's families, right? It's families, and one of the things that you should know about Eagle Claw is we're an extremely diverse company. We've always been an extremely diverse company. One of the rooms I work in all the time is called the Madeline McGill room. So Madeline McGill, she ran the company for a while. For the folks that don't know, a lot of us at Eagle Claw, we work 4-day work weeks. And that was a part of her new life plan that she instituted in the 70s because she
Wow.
wanted Eagle Claw employees to have more time with their families. So it's when I say Eagle Claw or I talk about Eagle Claw, I'm well past seeing just a hook or one logo or anything. I see people,
Right.
and it's one of those things that from all walks of life, we have people that are proudly working at Eagle Claw, building, shipping, designing, marketing, selling the hooks that a lot of you guys use, and know that we take a great deal of pride in that. We want to be the connecting point between you and your dreams, and we want you to be able to trust it.
That's awesome stuff, man. And that's I've said this so many times that I've but I say it about Vicious, I said about Amped Outdoors, I say about All Terrain, all the companies that I work with is I know that there's somebody out there is going to say, that they've, maybe they have there's, like you said before, there's a lot of great products out there. Never
Mhm.
claiming that what I have is what I use is the best of the best. Never said that. But what I will say is it's a quality product, and it's more so important to me that the company that's behind it, man, the people that are behind it. I've worked with these people one on one, and I will put my name next to theirs to say these are good folks, man.
Yeah.
And that matters. That absolutely matters. That could be the old man in me. I don't care. It's the truth. It matters what kind of people you're working with. Lord knows our industry has a lot of shady dudes and
Well,
gals, running
yeah.
around.
Well,
And so
it's one of those things where it's not the old dude in you; it's the good dude that you are, right? That's a fact. And here's a little story about Eagle Claw that I hope puts some of this into context. Uh, when did you get out to Colorado, Gene?
So collectively, I've been here well over 20 years. I originally
Okay.
moved here in 1990, moved away in 2010, was gone and got back here in 2021.
Okay, so that's not a simple answer, dude.
Sorry.
So
It's like
uh,
20 collective years, I guess.
I I want to say 2015, 2016ish. So uh, I've been an outdoor writer for a long time. I started writing. I had a column started like 2005 ish. But over the course of time, I started covering high school tournaments.
Nice.
My good friend, I'll call him a mentor, somebody a man I love, His name's Sam Heckman. He's the one that started the high school fishing out here in Colorado. I was covering one of his tournaments, and these tournaments aren't possible without boaters. They very selflessly take high school kids out and um, deal with somebody else's teenagers for a while. It is the best way to put it. And over the years, you get to know the boaters. You see their boat. You talk with them at the weigh-in and stuff like that. I saw it was like a matte black Legend that I'd never seen before. And you know how most boats are. They have sponsor stickers or boat
Right.
decals or whatever, carpet decals. And it was a flat black Legend that had none of that stuff on it. And I was just, it's intriguing when you see a bass boat with nothing on it.
Right.
So that they come into the weigh-in, and Sammy starts his thing, and everybody's super stoked because Sammy with a microphone in his hand is great. You never know what he's going to say. He said, "I got a real treat for you guys today. One of our boaters is none other than Drew McGill."
Oh, wow.
So Drew gets up, and this is the man that's the owner, one of the owners, right?
Right.
Uh, he gets up, and he could have talked about our new hooks. He could have talked about what we're doing. He could have talked about a bunch of stuff. Instead, he said, "You are the future of our sport, and my door is always open." Left it at that.
Wow.
And right then and there, I was like, I don't know when, but I'm going to be working for that man at some point. And here I am.
That is awesome, man. That is so cool. I love hearing stuff like that. Around the fishing industry, that kind of stuff is always there. Shifting gears a little bit, I wanted to
Mhm.
talk because I've had a chance to catch a couple of these episodes and they're phenomenal. Eagle Claw, you guys have your own podcast that you guys are running, man. And from production to the intros to the content, everything is phenomenal on that. A lot of guys that we fish with in the CKB have seen it, and they're making special arrangements to make sure they tune in even
Yeah.
when they're working. What how did that come about? I mean, I know you've had podcasts before in
Yeah.
the past, and so that obviously. But talk to us about the podcast, Eagle Claws podcast.
We want to connect with anglers, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. Our goal is to help folks catch more and bigger fish, to make educated purchases, because a lot of stuff when it comes to the fishing industry, um, Gene, you know what you want with the jig rod, right? You know exactly what you want.
Yes, sir.
A lot of folks don't.
Right.
And that's, it gives us a way to interact in person, or I don't know what you would call it, live is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And it's been a real blessing. We have a great team. Stefan is the guy that's behind everything. He's the one that's hitting all the buttons and multiple cameras. Ethan Foster, he's the young man that I do the live feed with. Wise beyond his years, a stick in his own
Very,
right.
very.
And then all the guys, all the product team, all the guys in the store. It's my goal with that was actually to create the vibe in the store digitally. That's the whole goal behind that. It's like uh, if anybody's ever played the guitar, you know what it's like to go to the guitar store when you don't know how to play, and you ask the guy if he can help you, and then he grabs a guitar and he starts just playing like Steve Ray Vaughan, and you're like, okay, dude, put the guitar down. I don't want to touch it now. That's the fishing industry for a lot of people, right?
Right.
It's like I want to. Can you help me catch my first bass? It's like, yeah, you can wacky rig, you can drop shot, you can do all these things, and that's like our version of playing Steve Ray Vaughan. It's like, dude, what if the guy or gal doesn't know what a drop shot is? What if they don't know what a wacky rig is? That's where Eagle Claw Live thrives. It's like, if you have a question that you've gone to the tackle store and maybe you're a little too nervous to ask, or you think there's any fishing question that's a dumb question, which there is not, we want to have you at Eagle Claw Live. And at some point, I think there might be a Trocar Live for a little more technical stuff.
Nice. And so for Eagle Claw Live, that's just right through Facebook and YouTube. Is that right, or is it just Facebook?
Yep. So it's actually just through Facebook. After the first of the year, it's going to be YouTube and stuff like that. We have a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes right now, so it might be a little bit before we do the next Eagle Claw Live. But know that in 2024, we are hitting the ground running, and a lot of really cool ideas that we have that I think that people are going to be stoked about.
That's awesome. And it's basically at Eagle Claw Fishing is where you can find it on Facebook, Instagram. Hit them up here. Watch on Facebook. You can see the past episodes that are on there.
Yep.
It's super, super good stuff. Even old dogs, picking up new stuff. So easy to all, you start getting so much stuff your utility belt that Batman forgets that he's got, 92 other options, that are available to you there, that what got you started. I find myself in this revolution now where the kayak helped me minimalize,
Yeah.
and every year I keep shutting down. I keep taking things out. I know guys are going to look at me sideways, this and that, but for my style of fishing and for my comfort level, I actually, for the last event of the year, I pulled the live scope out.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I've used it for 2 years. I've caught fish with it. Yes. I had help with, getting the settings just right. I feel like I understand it cleaner, but I got to tell you, every time I start doing it, I hear a clock ticking. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no. And so for me, it's like, why, stop fighting it, dude. You don't need it. It is not, I've got other tools that I can use in place of that I'm more comfortable with. So I'm going to do that instead, and it's like, am I going to get beat by it? Only if he knows his stuff. That's
Yeah.
what because just buying this stuff out there does not equal you winning, you doing great. You got to put the time and effort into it. And most people forget
The, are we going to talk forward facing sonar right now?
that. We don't have
Oh.
to do that. No.
What I would say is I love that you have the self awareness to know.
Yeah.
Very, it's in the paradox of choice is real. Anybody that I struggle with it myself. I bring too much stuff with me. Always have, probably always will. When it comes to forward facing sonar, I'm an early adapter. I've got more than my 10,000 hours in, and I still struggle with the wind because there's most definitely there's a win to and win not to, and I think the folks that do the best with it can put that screen aside when they have to.
Yep.
I don't. I actually I got called out by my wife last year at Trinidad after she whooped almost everybody's ass. She took second, and after the tournament, she goes, "You act like you don't know how to fish." Because what I was doing, I was going past brush piles on my looking at my little doodad trying to find fish, and it's self awareness is huge, confidence is huge. There's so many things in the sport of tournament fishing and kayak tournament fishing where it's like there's a rhythm that you have to find. That once you find, then you can fish to your true abilities. But until you find that rhythm, and you're struggling or fumbling or all the rest of the stuff, it's just it's very difficult. You know what I mean? And when you fish in Colorado,
Ooh.
oh buddy, we got say 15 legit hammers that if they go anywhere else, they're a problem, a real problem. And I think that it's only going to get worse, to be honest with you. And what I mean by that is we can find fish quicker. Dude, take live scope out of it. Side scan, all the rest of the stuff, dude. We can find fish faster. The difference is when you're from Colorado and you have to make those 7 bites be as good as they can be,
Yep.
and you've done that for years and years and years. When you get to go somewhere and you can flip a jig, it's like a vacation.
Right. Right. For me, one of the positives that came out of the slump that I found myself in, it followed me from the boat world into the kayak side. One of the benefits that came from that was the fact that I got to the point where, like you said, it wasn't the result that was upsetting me. It was the day and all the dumb, not me moves I was trying to do and things. So the more and more I go in this game and in this sport, I can hold my head high if I go out and only get like horse tooth.
Mhm.
I'll be straight honest with you. Horse tooth, I put what, 2 keepers up, 1 keeper up. Um, there were 3 limits caught, and only 9 of us caught fish that were, keepers out of
Mhm.
30 some odd anglers. At the end of that day, I did not feel bad. I
Yeah.
just didn't. I'm like, dude, I burnt my motor down to about 60%. And I mean, to be honest with you, to take 40% of my 100 amp hour, battery down, that's a lot of moving. I was
Yeah.
covering water. I was fishing. I was throwing some drop shot in there, but I was also throwing other methods in. I fished the way I wanted to fish, and it just didn't happen that day. I can turn
Yeah.
the page and I can move on. So for me, it was the drive home. So that's the way I'm getting to that, so that I feel there's something that you wrote a post about Leslie that I absolutely love. This, she's not there to compete against you, and I'm coming into that where I'm not competing against anybody out there. It's
Yeah.
just me and Mother Nature here, and I just got to put my skills together. Because when I take guys out fishing, I find fish really fast. I get them on fish, and they have a blast. Tournament shows up in Colorado, and I'm like, "Dah." So it's like, okay, I need to find that I'm gonna just keep moving these things around until they lock in place.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
that's always where I was
well,
thinking at.
we maybe you need to quit pre-fishing and you need to pre-vibe like Leslie.
Right,
You
right.
know, like
No, I can't do that.
so that horse tooth event, I took fifth, and I got three keepers,
Right,
and I was miserable to drive home, absolutely miserable, because I let one. How do I word this? I let impatience get the best of me. I was on fish that I'm not saying I would have won, but I was on an area that I needed to be patient for them to set back up.
right,
But I got that like, dude, if I fished and I didn't I didn't run into something and I knew that one of my choices cost me, if I caught nothing, I would drive home and be fine. I would, you know what I mean? It's that thing, but you know what? I'll even tell you what I was set up on. You know what I mean? Because we already talked earlier. You guys can't use my own stuff against me. So
right. The rule's been set.
I fished Inlet Bay. Okay.
Yep.
And I found a flat next to a channel swing that was prototypical. And the water level was where it needed to be for this spot to come into play. By the way, at this channel swing, there was also a little point that had a rock pile on. It was everything that you want. So I go up into the inlet because it was just running. And everybody, for some reason, I was the only person that running water, smallmouth. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
go in there. I stick my first fish of the day. It was 13 something with it. A keeper on a day like that is a big deal. Like you said, only 9 of them were caught. So it was like, okay, here we go. I'm hearing Jimmy. I can hear Jimmy. This is the thing. I go back to my spot. I see fish on the scope. This is going back to that thing where you're taking the scope off, and they're not reacting to my bait. And all
Right.
my drop shot baits are very, shad-ish, bait fish-ish, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yep.
So I start thinking in my head, I'll just go get a small limit at some of my other spots. I waste 3 hours, maybe more than that. I come back, I calm down, and I go, you know what, this stuff that I normally throw is not working. There's a new bait called the Yama Tanuki. I'm gonna throw that. I figured them out. I caught 2 more. I just ran out of time. But knowing in pre-fishing, I found the spot. I knew that they were going to come in and out. I knew all these things. And
Right.
instead of going, you know what, ride or die, ride or die, make your choice and be willing to sit in the skunk. And if it works out, bask in the glory, right? If you don't do that, and I did, you don't get a bask in the glory. You don't get to sit in the skunk. You get to live in indecision.
Right.
And that's the thing that kills me. So it's like other tournaments where it's super hard, like Chatfield early this year when we fished in the great blizzard of 23
Of
or whatever you want to
23.
call
Yeah.
it.
The great freeze.
Yeah, dude, I found one spot. I got 2 or 3 bites. My gear froze up. Didn't catch a fish, and I left with my head held high because I did the best I was capable of doing.
Sure. Sure.
You know,
And that's really where it's at, man. It's doing this long enough, you get to that point where it's I'm not okay with losing. Make no mistake, I'm not okay with not winning. I should say it that way, or at least cashing a check. On these things, there's a lot riding on it. That I want to make sure we're cashing check where we go. But at the same note, I have to be realistic, and I've been doing this for a lot of years to understand the sport enough to know that you got to have realistic expectations. So until I get my stuff ironed out, then I can't expect the fish to, react the way I need them to. So we'll keep that stuff moving. But
Dude, the waves too. Like anybody that says there's not waves in fishing,
oh man,
it has not fished long enough. So where there's ebbs, there's flows, and it's like talking to Matt Becker. I said, dude, you surely got hot at the right time, huh? And he goes, yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. And that happens with all of us, where it's that thing where it's you get a couple years where you feel like you really got it dialed in, and then everything changes, everything. Yep. And just for future reference, I think that's going to happen with all of us now, because when you put forward-facing sonar down, I actually think that nationally, maybe not locally, it's going to open up a bank that wasn't open before, because everybody's going to be offshore. Like my wife told me, you act like you forgot how to fish, kind of thing. Everybody's going to be offshore, and you're going to be able to capitalize on the thing that you've worked really hard to perfect, which is, dotting a gnat's ass and putting exactly where it needs to be and all that stuff.
Yep.
And the other revolution, I think, unfortunately, is going to be finesse fishing is going to get more finesse.
Right. So. Yeah, and that means I'll transition into more tournament direction and not not as much competition, but we'll see. I'll do more fun stuff and have fun that way. But for sure. Well, listen, man, I can't thank you enough for coming out and sharing Eagle Claw, sharing your stories here. It's always fantastic when you're on here. People love love it when you come on the show, and of course, none more than us here. We've got some cool stuff coming down. I'll get with you off air on. We've got, of course, that Lake Pueblo thing going on, the final event of the year. Hopefully, we'll have a head count on that pretty soon, where we kind of get an idea. We're working with Rack Fishing Association. One of their founders is an active military. He's at Fort Carson, is where he's from, where he's at. They're originally founded in Florida, but he got stationed here at Fort Carson, so he's just started it up here. So he and I were working together for that one. He's got some extra kayaks that we don't have, and he's got some contacts that we don't have. So we thought, let's it's the same mission, same healing, man. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, I did. I don't know if you just saw what happened, but for some reason, all my lights I have no idea what just happened.
Nice. Well, we might lose power on you, so it looks like we're signing off at the right time here. So awesome stuff, brother. Well, folks, check out the Eagle Claw Fishing. Check out the podcast. You're going to absolutely love their stuff. Go out to eagleclaw.com and just dig in, man. Just start learning about this stuff and check these things out. Of course, go to any of the major retailers out there that carries, Eagle Claws everywhere. I travel around this country, and in the tiniest little shops, little tackle shops, there's always a set of Eagle Claw here. I actually had to buy a couple extra hooks when I was at Okoboji, and they had like one row on this little tackle shop deal, and I'm like, yep. Like Eric would be proud. That's what we're grabbing. Needed to refill. So yeah, that kind of stuff, folks, get out there and check them out. It'll you will absolutely thank both of us that you did. Listen, brother, I can't wait to fish against you, but we're going into the off season here, so hopefully we'll have some more. I told James, I was like, hey man, the next big meeting, let's have it at the house. We'll barbecue up some stuff. That way we don't have to worry about shutting the place down like we do every year.
Well, I would love that, and it's rare you get to spend time with anglers off the water. You know what I mean? It'd be cool.
I was just thinking that it's like we need to do that for maybe more than meetings. Maybe just, hey, let's all get, if you guys are up, let's go grab at this place here. Let's go grab dinner tonight or whatever. Because it is always fun. The stories, the laughs, everything always goes down. So, all right, man. Well, thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate it. Tell Leslie we said what's up from the TPO. Folks, like, subscribes. It's a huge, huge help. I can't say it enough. We could use them. Hit that subscribe out there. Give it a like, the follows for Eagle Claw Fishing, for True Patriot Outfitters, the whole shebang. As always, folks, tight lines and be safe. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Together.